Welcome to the No Limits Life podcast, where we explore what it really takes to become stronger in mind, body, and spirit, and live beyond the limitations we so often place on ourselves. I'm your host, Nordine Zouareg, 2 times Mr. Universe, best-selling author, high-performance coach, and author of the upcoming book, The No Limits Life, 365 Daily Meditations to Unlock Your Strength and Live Beyond Your Comfort Zone. Today is a special one for me because my guest is not simply someone I respect professionally. He is a very dear friend of mine. And when you know someone personally, you get to see beyond the resume, beyond the stage, beyond the success. I've had the opportunity to know John Assaraf as a friend. And what I've always appreciated about him is his genuine curiosity about human potential. Why some people break through their limitations, while others remain trapped by them. John has spent decades studying that question and, more importantly, living it. John Assaraf is one of the world's leading mindset and high-performance experts. Millions of people first came to know him through the global phenomenon, The Secret. But John's story goes much deeper. He's appeared on Larry King Live, Anderson Cooper, and The Ellen DeGeneres Show, and has been featured in numerous films and programs exploring human potential and success. As an entrepreneur, John has built 5 multimillion-dollar companies. He helped grow Remax of Indiana from a startup into an organization with 85 offices and approximately 1,200 sales associates, generating billions of dollars in annual sales. He was also one of the founders of Bamboo.com, which later became a publicly traded company. He's written 14 books, including 2 New York Times bestsellers, with his work translated into dozens of languages around the world. What interests me most about John is not the size of the companies he's built or how many books he sold. It is the work he's doing today around the brain. Through Mind Neuro Gym, John has dedicated himself to helping people understand how thoughts, beliefs, habits, emotions, and behaviors can be trained, what he calls inner size. And that brings us directly into the No Limits Life is about, my friend. My friend, my dear friend, welcome to the No Limits Life podcast. It's really great to have you here.
Nordine, it's such a great pleasure to be with you, and I just love the work that you do in the world and the hundreds of thousands, millions of people that you help.
Thank you. John, before we get into your story, I want to start with something I've been thinking about. The limits you fight hardest to overcome are often the ones no one else can see. You've spent so much of your career studying the invisible barriers of fear, self-doubt, habits, beliefs, and conditioning. When you hear that quote, what does it mean to you personally? Not as a teacher or a coach, but as John.
Listen, as I'm on here with you, right? I want to sound good. I want people to like me and love me and go, wow, he's so smart. And he knows what he's talking about. And that's because of lack of self-confidence and certainty and identity and ego. Every one of us is protecting something. And usually what we're trying to protect first is ourself. And so I often say that we all have masks, right? There's the mask that I see when I look in the mirror and I get out of the shower and I'm naked and I just see me and I know all of my insecurities. I know my failures. I know the negative self-talk. I know the things I'm embarrassed about, ashamed of. I know the things that I've done immorally, etc. I know those. I don't want you to know them, right? Because then you will think ill of me. So there's the mask that I see, there's the mask that you see, there's the mask I want you to see, and I'm doing all of it and you're doing all of it for protection, to protect ourselves so that I'm likable, I'm lovable, I'm accepted into this thing called society. And so my brain, and every brain, is predicting how to be safe, how to be liked, how to be loved, how to be appreciated. The more we can get all of our masks, the mask you see, the mask I want you to see, the mask that is real, the more we can get the mask just to be, hey, let me talk to you about just me. the good, the bad, the ugly, the embarrassing. The first thing we realize if you do any research is we are all like not just metaphysically connected, but we are all connected. We're all in like this balloon with all of the atoms and molecules spinning around, and these atoms that have been coalesced into this sentient being called a human, 100 trillion cells called a human, John, and the human Nordine is all made up of the same stuff, right? Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon.
We are all one. At the same time, we live in a society that is completely based on separation. You were mentioning ego and masks. Everybody's wearing masks for everybody else. They wear masks for their significant others. They wear masks for their children. They wear masks for their bosses. They wear masks for their neighbor. They wear masks for the grocery clerk. And because of that, they lose their identity. And people like you, John, your work is specifically based on reminding these people that with science, with research, this is not your BS. These are research, and when you sit with somebody and you tell them and you explain, that the brain is doing this and this, and they're there for 2 minutes listening to you, and then they turn their back and they go back to that old conditioning. Okay, that's blah blah blah. So can you tell me or tell us, the audience, it's beautiful to hear what you just said, and it's there's facts and evidence. You can't bullshit that. So how can they, learn from that and then keep that, forever instead of, shying away from it?
Well, I think, if we start off with another, a few more facts, is when you and I were born, right? We have a brain, body, hopefully eyes that allow light through it so our brain can see. And we can hear, and we're, receiving this electromagnetic frequency from all of the external stimuli. But there isn't a baby. There's been about 108 billion humans that have walked on Earth since the beginning of humankind. And there wasn't one human born with any identity, any fears, any beliefs, any self-image, nothing. So, when we understand that every brain functionally works the same, like every electric car functionally works the same, every gas car functionally works the same, first we understand that every brain functionally works the same. So let's say the fear circuit in my brain functionally works the same way as the fear circuit in your brain. What causes me to be afraid may be different than what causes you to be afraid based on your conditioning and training from parents and teachers and environment and personal experiences. So when you ask most people, who are you? Most people will tell you, well, their name. And if you said, well, that's not who you are, that's your name. They go, oh yeah, you're right. This is who I am. And go, well, that's not who you are, that's your body. I said, well, go deeper, go deeper than the surface. And if we want to keep going deeper than the surface, how did you become you? Right. And of course, mom and dad got together and the sperm and the egg got together and, created, 26 multiplications through the zygote and all these multiplications, and the cells divided and you became you with those 26 multiplications. But even that, isn't that intelligent energy that through the transmutation of energy, everything is energy, became this sentient being? And then you're made up of this hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon. There's this perfect, form. And we breathe this perfect air for us to be alive. You're not your name. You're not your brain. You're not your heart. You are an intelligent being that is, I like to call it this spiritual intelligence. That's who you and I and everybody really is. Then we're born and we have this body. And depending on our parents' understanding, how much they've been trained, how much they have researched, how much they've experienced life, from the physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, where they're tapping into the field of all intelligence, depending on their experience, you and I and everybody else develop these beliefs about reality and the truth. And then we live our life based on what we believe is true. And then we develop these identities based on how well you did in school or in sports or in geometry or in karate. And we start to develop these identity characteristics that then define us. And then our brain wants to make sure that we don't hurt ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially to protect this identity. But it's really not who we are. So we can live our life, blind, believing that we know the truth. If you're curious and you're willing to dive deeper than the surface, you can uncover a lot more about yourself and the reality of beliefs, the reality of identity, the reality of this emotion that we call is fear, which is one of our 6 core emotions.
Yeah, and John, this is so deep. This is a deep work that people need to know that this is the truth. But people are not, working on context. I always say the sky, the universe, is context, and then we have content, which is the experience of oneself, these fears, all of these things that people are, going by, and if people chose to learn about what you teach and learn the science behind who they truly are, I don't think we would get rid of 75% of the problems on the planet, but that's not the case because people are into that content, and that experience, instead of delving into that spiritual aspect of oneself and understanding that there's more to it. There's more to Nordine. There's more to John. There's more to everyone that I was watching. There's more to you than just your name, as you mentioned. John, you've built businesses, lots, learned, rebuilt, and reinvented yourself more than once. Was there a period in your life when your own mindset became the biggest obstacle you had to overcome? And how did you recognize it?
Well, you're asking for a moment, and I'm going to share with you that it's been all the time. Right? So every time, I seek to do something new, bigger, different, I have self-doubt. Fear, worry, stress, anxiety, uncertainty. The difference today is I realize that's normal every time I want to grow and get out of my current comfort zone. And the visual that I have is sitting here on my desk to remind me. Do you see this beautiful monarch butterfly? Before it was a butterfly, it was a caterpillar. In between the caterpillar and the butterfly, all right, it had to go into this goopy, ugly, uncomfortable stage called a papua. And that's the stage, the metamorphosis that is required if you want to grow, if you want to become the better, newest version of you all the time. A year ago, I ran into a friend of mine that I used to work with literally 42 or 3 years ago. And it was a very good friend, and we worked together. I got him into reading and listening to cassette tapes back then and coming to seminars with me because I was into growing. I want to get better. And he got into it and did really, really well and started making $150,000, $200,000 a year. Long story short, when I met him, I go, "Hey, what have you been reading? What have you been doing?" He goes, "Oh, nothing." And you know what struck me, which was just like a time warp? He's 68 now, but he was the exact same man that I left our friendship 40 some odd years ago. He got older. He did not grow. He reinforced who he was in his 20s. Not one book, not one podcast, not one personal development program since the 80s. And I had nothing in common with him anymore. And I was like, oh my God, you got older, but you haven't grown. Everybody gets older. Not everybody grows. Everybody can grow, but not everybody chooses to. I think for some people, There's just an IQ that's low, where they don't really realize and they don't have critical thinking skills and deductive reasoning skills. For some people, it's that they're just not that smart and they're ignorant, just not knowing. For other people, it's because they don't know how to manage emotions. And so they're comfortable managing the emotions they've gotten used to versus learning how to manage through the emotions of change and adaptability and resiliency and tenacity and stick-to-itness. So for some people, it's emotional dysregulation. For other people, they just lack the motivation, the motive for action, because they're just like, I don't really want to do much. Here's the thing that I discovered a long time ago, and Bob Proctor was one of my early mentors and business partners. Help the people who are seeking and want the help, not the people who need the help, right? And I was like, what? No, I want to help everybody. He says, you cannot help somebody who does not want the help. He says, get out of the convincing business, John. And here's the thing that you'll find in society, just like in the fitness and health space that you came from, that I met you in, to the money or business or relationships, I've discovered there's about 20% of people that want to get better at the thing they want to get better at. I say 40% are kind of like interested, and 40% couldn't give a shit about growth. What it's done for me is I just look to find the people who says like, hey, I'm interested. Show me. I don't know. I'm seeking for some help and advice. And then I could work with, share with people who really are seeking. Like,
absolutely. I mean, I always say, there people are, you got to meet them halfway. They're where they are because they need to be where they are to learn from their own experience. John, you and I have something in common. I've spent most of my life training the body and eventually realized that the most important muscle we train is not visible. You call mental training exercise. Why are people willing to spend hours training their bodies, careers, and skills, yet often spend so little time deliberately training their minds?
So back in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, Jack LaLanne was bringing exercise to the world. And doctors were saying, it is going to shorten your lifespan. It's going to make you weaker. It's going to use up your energy. And doctors, right, who you think would know, were ignorant. They didn't know. And, Jack was ahead of the curve. No differently than, you and I have talked about meditation for decades, right? And we know from Eastern philosophy and now from Western research that it's one of the best things you could do. So the empirical evidence is there, but still billions of people don't do it. Why? Well, because many of them still don't know, or they don't know how to do it, or they really don't understand the benefits of it. So when I came up with my taxonomy around, taking the body's physical muscles and strengthening that with exercise, we know that our brain is made up of different parts of the brain, like 4 networks, dozens of circuits, and a variety of different, what I call like members of your brain. So I'll give you an example. Above me, there's Einstein. And over there's Frankie's monster, right? What if we started looking, at our brain as a compilation of a variety of different neuromuscles, right? And we could learn how to use different parts of our brain no differently than if you're in a car. In gear 1, the car gets out of park and goes fast, but then you don't stay in gear 1 because you'd burn the engine. You need to, move the clutch into gear 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Well, if the Einstein part of the brain is working, you're innovative, you're creative, you're coming up with ways to achieve a goal, you're coming up with visions and goals and plans. But if your Frankie's monster is active, as I call it, then you have self-doubt and fear and worry and stress and anxiety and uncertainty. And we know that the mechanics of what's happening in our brain, is either causing us to take action or not take action and be safe. So most people spend more time learning how to drive their car than using their own brain. It's a $100 billion, $1 trillion organ that you own, no mortgage, no payment plan every month. But how much time has the average person invested in learning how to use the most powerful tool in the entire universe? And the answer is very little. Now that we have the science that's irrefutable, people like you, people like me, who are helping people with, mindset, mental fitness, mental health, emotional regulation, and training their neuromuscles, as I call them. There's 7 of them that we've outlined. If I train my neuromuscles the way, somebody might train their physical muscles, can exercise plus exercise equal a better me? And the answer is absolutely. I've trained in the last 8 years over 93,000, clients and millions of people through podcasts by teaching them exercise instead of exercise. So part of it's ignorance. The other is they don't have enough exposure to it. But it's catching on like fire right now.
I had the same experience. A lot of people ask me, you're a former Mr. Universe, and why are you talking more about spirituality, mindset? And I always say, because it starts there. It's not the other way around. It doesn't start with the body. It starts with this. And that's why I had to, reconsider everything I was doing back in the years when I was competing, when I was in that, obsession of the body. I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. And I said, there is something, fundamentally wrong with what I'm doing, because I'm traveling, I'm successful, I make a lot of money, and something was missing. And so then I start talking or thinking about harmony, instead of thinking about balance, happiness. I start thinking about harmony. How can I create harmony in the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspect of myself? Then I can feel that I'm actually moving forward instead of staying still, or being, in that fear mode all the time. So yes, walking, not thinking about training their mind, and everyone is about the body. How do I look good? Next question I have for you, John. Let's talk about fear. Okay. Fear has protected human beings for thousands of years, but it can also keep us trapped in circumstances we've outgrown. Can we actually retrain our relationship with fear? Or will that voice always be there, and will we simply learn how to move despite it?
Maybe we should help everybody understand that fear, when the fear circuit gets activated, right? It's part of the amygdala and the vagus nerve and the sympathetic nervous system, and it's one of the greatest early detection warning mechanism ever created in the whole universe. The number one priority of the human brain is survival. Number one priority is survive. Safety and security come right next. And then number 3 is avoidance of pain or discomfort, whether it's real pain imagined, present moment, or future, imagination. This sense in your brain, based on your experiences, based on what your parents told you, your teachers told you, environment told you, the books you read told you, television told you, social media told you, this circuit in the brain gets activated when either something you see that comes in through your eyes, or something you hear, or something you want to do is measured against a memory, information in your memory bank, long-term memory, that might cause pain or discomfort or death. There's nothing wrong with the circuit. You want to have a sensitive fear circuit. But you've got to teach yourself that just because the circuit went off doesn't mean you've got to start running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Don't blame the circuit. Now, the key to understand is when fear goes off over and over and over and over again for protection, the question that we should be asking ourselves is this threat real? Our brain is predicting every nanosecond of every moment we're awake. It's predicting, is there real danger here right now? Somebody that can kill me, eat me, or does it want to have sex with me, right? So our brain is predicting these things in advance. And if the threat detection organism, brain, right, perceives a threat, it's going to release cortisol in the bloodstream, and then we're going to feel this thing called fear. I'm afraid. And we're either going to fight it, we're going to freeze, we're going to run away, or we might faint. So the first thing to understand is nothing wrong with the circuit. Just like you like, your car to beep, beep, beep when you're too close to a car, or to flash the light when there's a car too close to you, you want to go into the different lane with all the new cars. You want your brain's fear circuit to work, but you have to treat it as a member of the band or the orchestra. And then you have to say, okay, this fear circuit turned on. Why? Is it real threat or not? Well, I don't know. Maybe, am I going to die? Yes, no. No. Okay, lower the threat. Can I get hurt? I don't know. My brain is perceiving. I might lose time, energy, money. I might get emotional. I might be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, rejected, abandoned. I might be unloved. I might not be accepted. Okay, so that threat's real to me. Most people have not learned how to regulate emotions, of which fear is one of them. So there's nothing wrong with fear. When the fear circuit activates, the first thing you have to do, right, is when you're feeling that little stress, that angst, first you do is inner size number 1 is called take 6, calm the circuits. Why? When the fear circuit is on, the Frankie's monster part of the brain is on, right prefrontal cortex. We want to shut that off and move back to Einstein so I can actually think. This is not the thinking part of the brain. It's the reactive automatic part of the brain based on my old training conditions. I need to turn it off. Fastest way to turn it off. Take 6 slow, deep breaths in through the nose and then breathe slowly, slowly, slowly out through the mouth to let your brain, your heart, and your gut know everything's okay right now. There's nothing trying to kill me or eat me, etc. So for 60 seconds, you just breathe. Inner size number 1 is breath. Inner size number 2 to move from Frankie to Einstein is called AYA, A-I-A. And AYA stands for awareness, intention, action. So awareness of what? Well, first, I need to be aware of my thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and the behavior that this fear, is wanting me to not take or take. Awareness, I'm thinking negatively. I'm thinking I might get hurt. I'm feeling anxious. So we can say, well, I'm feeling afraid. So name it. Naming it reduces the anxiety. I'm feeling afraid. Then say, great. In this moment, what's your intention? Well, my intention is to be calm, and my intention is to analyze this thing that's causing me this fear or stress or worry or anxiety. And then my intention is to take a little bit of action towards the goal I want to achieve. So first, we detect the fear. Second, we neutralize it. Third, we become aware of the pattern. Fourth, we set a new intention. Fifth, we take action. So once I do that, now I'm back into the proper part of my brain that can assess, analyze, make decisions. Those 2 little inner sizes are working on your deductive reasoning, critical thinking part of your brain, left prefrontal cortex. It's working on your limbic system control, emotional regulation, and those are 2 of the core 7 neuromuscles. In the absence of knowing how to do that, there's a 6-letter word I've been teaching a lot of people lately, and people seem to be resonating with. If you don't want to learn what I've just shared, just those 2 simple ones, here's your 6-letter word. Ready? It's S-U-F-F-E-R. Suffer.
That reminds me of something I read or saw somewhere not long ago. And it's 2 boxers, MMA boxers, and they have this way of inspiring each other, and then they go, I must breathe so I can think. I must think so I can act. I must act so I can win. It goes along with what you just said, but you go deeper than that. And we're both at stage in our lives where achievement means something different, completely different than it did when we were younger. We've accomplished things, we've experienced success, we've also lived enough life to understand that success alone does not necessarily create fulfillment. What matters to you today that happens, that perhaps didn't matter nearly as much to you 20 or 30 years ago?
Does my life have purpose and meaning every day? And am I trading my life for what I love? I love doing this. I love doing the research. I love sharing, and I love creating programs, I like taking complex stuff and making it easy. So the more I do that, the more I feel fulfilled.
It's interesting you saying that, because our previous guest was the former CEO at Miraval. We were doing a show on Bill O'Donnell's and his legacy. And he said that Bill O'Donnell always told him, if you can find a job that is fun, that you can make money and helps, you have the best job on the planet. And this is what I have, this is what you have. We wake up in the morning passionate about what we're doing, and we do that day in and day out without fail. And that's what I love about you is, you're able to not only help people, but, question them and put that seed in there. Whether they want to use it and grow it, that's their problem. But you put that in their mind, and that's what I admire in you. You're a father, a husband, an entrepreneur, a teacher, and a friend. When all the accomplishments are stripped away, who is John Assaraf still becoming?
I'm just looking to be the best version of me. I believe that God created everything. I'm not religious. And God created everyone and everything. So this intelligent energy that's in me, it is me and in everybody else, just being, more at one with that and helping everybody see that in themselves. So just becoming the best version of me and peeling away, on an ongoing basis, anything that isn't that.
How people can really identify what is and what is not is taking the time to do these breathing exercises, taking the time to question themselves. Those are the things the fundamental things that they need to start doing. And there's so many other things that you teach, and that can be not only beneficial, but crucial to make people's life that's much better. I want to wrap up with this, John. One of the reasons I valued our friendship is that our paths may look different, but we've arrived at many of the same conclusions. You can train the body. You can build the business. You can achieve the goal, but you never learn to understand and train the person within. Eventually, those external accomplishments can only take you so far. The mind the brain needs training, right? The body needs care. The spirit needs purpose. And none of us ever really finishes that work. So, John, thank you for your friendship, for the conversation, and for the work you continue to do, helping people recognize that many of the limits controlling their lives can be challenged, trained, and changed. We spend so much of our lives fighting what is in front of us. The circumstances, the competition, the setbacks, the people who doubt us, but eventually we discover that some of our greatest battles are not happening around us. They're happening within us. A belief we've carried for years. A fear we keep obeying. A story from our past that has quietly become our identity. These limits don't have walls, but they can imprison us just the same. The moment you become aware of them, however, something changes. And that, for me, is what keeps people in that comfort zone. When they get out of that comfort zone, they're now allowed to fly their own wings. Would you say, John?
Key is to be aware of our own mental and emotional limitations and ask a different question maybe is what has to happen? Who do I need to become? What do I need to believe? What character trait can I bring forth to release, let go of, obliterate this limitation? And when we use our brain by asking those questions, our brain will come up with the answers. As opposed to seeing the obstacles as a wall, we see them as an opportunity for growth. The greatest gift we all have isn't our eyes and ears and bodies and potential. It's the power of choice. And every moment, in every situation, I am at choice for most of the time, right? Of course, there's places where people are not at choice. But I can choose what to focus on, what to accept, what to reject, what to give my attention to, my life, my energy. And I can either reinforce what is or create what I choose.
Final reflection. What could your life become if the limitation you've believed for years is no longer true? So, John, my friend, thank you again for being with us today. And to everyone listening, if this conversation gave you something to think about, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe, leave us a review, and please comment. Let me know what you think. For those who don't know yet, my upcoming book, The No Limits Life, it's going to be released September 15. If you haven't yet, pre-order a copy at thenolimitslifebook.com, thenolimitslifebook.com. Until next time, keep strengthening your mind, keep challenging your limits, and keep living your no limits life. And John, please tell the audience how they can get a hold of you.
I'm on Instagram a lot. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got a YouTube channel, and so I produce a lot of content. So follow me on social media.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
All you gotta do is follow.